Hello, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives Friday live chat with McDuff and Marcia. Lot to talk about, so let's go. Well, hello, Marcia. It's good to see you again.
Hello, John. It's good to be back.
It's
Good to
been
be seen.
an entire 24 hours since we had our last little chat here on the interwebs. And
Yes, indeed.
it's good to be back here on a Friday where we invite everyone to join us in the chat room. Most people who want to chat, join us on the Rumble channel, which is McDuff Lives, all one word. However, we will see any posts that you make on any of our YouTube channels, X or Facebook, I believe. So anyway, fire away if you've got thoughts you want to share here with Marcia and me here on Friday, January 9th, 2006, our first Friday show of the year.
2026.
2026.
Yes.
Isn't that what I said?
Maybe you did.
Good afternoon, Polly in Amsterdam.
Hello, Polly.
A snowy Amsterdam. I'd like to be there.
Oh, really? Is it snowing there?
That's what she says. She says, good afternoon.
Oh, yes, indeed.
From a snowy Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's still morning here, so I'm still drinking my morning tea. Cheers, everybody.
Yeah, and it's actually, we've been having a warm streak here. We were actually went into the 60s yesterday, and I think we're supposed to stay in the high 50s today and tomorrow, Saturday. Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Yeah, but it's going to be rainy. So
Well,
that's not a bad thing, but
no, we need the rain.
yeah.
But the temperature alone, I mean, 50s in January. I like it.
Right. Right. That doesn't always happen. So, and we'll get back to more seasonal temperatures next week. So we enjoy it while we can.
Well, Marcia, I want to thank you for helping me work through the Don Rowe doctrine yesterday. Your reading of the essential parts of the new national security strategy.
Yeah, the Trump corollary.
I think is something that's very sorely needed. And so the show yesterday includes Marcia reading maybe 2 or 3 pages of the essential part of it that has to do with the Western Hemisphere. And I think this is what a lot of people are really just not seeing. They're not seeing the importance of that national security strategy document. And we got some feedback from our show yesterday. One person said that they had to they're unsubscribing because we were supporting Trump in what he did, and so they had to unsubscribe from our Rumble channel. I said, okay, but what we're doing here, I think, is trying to get to the meat of the nut and to lay it all out there. And a lot of people have already made a decision in their minds that, whatever Trump is doing here is illegal and for the benefit of his insider buddies. And if that is the case, then yes, we are screwed. But what if it's not? What if it's actually a national security strategy well thought out by professionals who understand the big picture, and that most of us just don't see the big picture?
Well, I don't think it has to be exclusive either, mutually exclusive. You can do both. You can have a national security strategy that protects the country, but also protects the interest of the corporations, the oil companies and others. And I think by sharing this national security strategy like we did yesterday, we are not saying Trump did right or Trump did wrong. It wasn't meant to be judgmental.
Right.
It is meant to raise awareness of this document that exists. I mean, I think a lot of people go, why is he doing this? What is he up to? Well, this strategy has been issued in order to let the public know what the intent is and what the plan is and the reasons for some of the things that they are doing. Are those the only reasons? I don't know. Am I saying it's right or wrong? No. It's just there. And awareness is important.
And one thing that impedes people from awareness is TDS, in that this document comes from Trump.
Absolutely.
So I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not going to give it the benefit of my eyeballs scanning it. I will not associate myself with anything that Trump wrote or had ghostwritten for him, because he's probably incompetent to write. You know, that attitude, if people are just so full of their own, what really is self-righteousness in this context, because we don't know, we don't have the, we might not even have 10% of the facts that we would need to really make a judgment of what's going on here.
Exactly. And, you know, good morning, Corky. Thank you for being here. Corky says, frankly, most wars were using an unrighteous might. This was righteous might. Well, there you go.
Wow, righteous might.
Righteous might.
So, and so many of our MAGA friends are like rather appalled that I would have a any type of a hiccup or speed bump, or like, you know, of course this is right. This is Trump. This is what we voted for. Well, you know, there's always two sides to the story, and I want to make sure that we take a broad view of this stuff and not just fall into some other person's trap that has been well laid and we just don't see it yet.
Well, you know, and again, it goes back to that whole attitude that it's all one way or all another. That, you know, bifurcated approach to all of this discussion. There are so many shades of gray. I mean, the fact is, I think that you're just the most fabulous person in the world. But do you do things that annoy me? Yeah.
Uh,
And vice versa. You know, we annoy each other, we human beings. I'm sure I do things that annoy you and annoy my family, and probably things that annoy the dogs, but they love me unconditionally. So, you know, there are shades of gray. You know, if I hate Trump, I still want to know what he's all about. And if I love Trump, I still want to know what he's all about and look at everything that's happening and say, well, you know, I may not agree with this, even though overall I do. So we've got to be able to do that. We have to be able to do that. We can't say everything is good or everything is bad.
well, that's what the media wants us to do.
Yeah.
May I inject into this the horrific video of the woman who was shot to death in a ICE encounter 2 days ago.
Renee Good.
Her name is Renee Good, and the story of how it happened has been so politicized that to me it's just an indication that they want us to be driven apart, that they don't want anybody that's got TDS to keep it and make sure and don't read anything Trump says. Anybody that follows Trump, don't listen to the crazy liberals, because you know they're just making this up. And what really got at me was the first 4 or 5 times that I saw a video of it, you can hardly see the cop that turned out to be the shooter. He's pretty much obscured until all of a sudden you see the vehicle making a sharp right turn. And it's kind of iffy of whether she was intending to hit him or whether she was just panicking and trying to get out of there and he happened to be in the way. And, you know, or, you know, was she actually trying to drive around him and not hurt him? From the angle that we saw it, for the first half dozen times I saw it, it was always the same angle. You couldn't tell.
The first shot. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what shot, but this, just hang on a second. I want to talk about the other video that I saw.
Okay.
The other video is from an angle, I'd say about maybe 90 degrees away from across the street.
I haven't seen that one.
And I know it's obscure. I saw it yesterday. It's a lower quality video. But what you see there is that this cop really was standing in front of the truck at the moment she hit the gas. And it's a totally different story. So I think what we're seeing here is an exercise in media manipulation of the American people to drive us further into despair and into feeling that,
Well, and dividing us.
yeah, and to feeling that maybe we need to have a civil war or something.
Yeah, I haven't seen the second video, and I'd like to. So after this is over, I'll go searching for it, or maybe you can show it to me. But the video that I saw, and it's from behind, so it's probably the same one that you saw over and over, and that most of us saw over and over. The very first shot, you really can't tell where he is, but he is not at the side of the vehicle, so he has to be in front.
Yeah.
The next two shots, he's clearly at the side of the vehicle, and this is what I don't understand. Once he got to the side of the vehicle, why did he continue shooting? Excuse me. But again, these things happen very quickly.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of training involved. And so when she was moving backwards, and then when she goes back into drive and starts moving forwards, it's hard to tell how quickly she was moving. And that's when he shot the first shot and then came around to the side and then continued shooting. But and we've just learned also, I've just seen right before the show an article that he was involved in an incident last summer in which he was dragged by a car.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that they're trying to say that, he has been attacked by a vehicle. So he sees a vehicle as a weapon. And I don't know what it feels like to be in that kind of a situation. And guess what? Neither does J.D. Vance. Donald Trump has been shot at, but he's not, I don't think, have somebody try to run him over. I wish that these people wouldn't make the kind of inflammatory comments that they make, like J.D. Vance saying, well, she brought it on herself. I don't remember if those were his exact words, but it was something like that. He wasn't there. He has seen the same videos we have. Maybe he's had briefings that we haven't had. Don't comment on it. Just say, the officer responded based on his training and based on his experience. He was there. He was the one that had to make a judgment call as to whether or not he was in danger. That's what makes me angry. Is it's not just the media that tries to divide us. It is the leaders too, sometimes, who make these comments that are very judgmental and then cause us to take sides.
I would just suggest that maybe he would not have been so judgmental had not the media flooded everybody with the story that this was unprovoked murder. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Corky says, her wheels spun hard and would have nailed the guy if the traction had hit. Okay.
Well, it is a terrible thing, and these things are happening a lot. I mean, this beginning of this year looks very bad. Last night we had the Oreshnik fired and hit in Lvov, Ukraine. Are you familiar with that, Marcia?
I am not.
The only reason that you're not familiar with it is because the Washington Post didn't report on it. I have to suppose, because it is one of the most important events of this year and of the Ukraine war. A year ago, Russia first deployed its hypersonic Oreshnik missile system, which is a missile system that flies so fast that nobody could possibly shoot it down. I mean, just thousands of miles an hour. And it flies up in the sky and comes down hard. And they did it as a kind of a warning the first time when Ukraine, I don't remember what it was, maybe the Kursk invasion or when Ukraine started. Maybe it was when they hit the arena in Moscow that time. But anyway, it was a look, don't do that again, or because they basically didn't hit anything.
FAFO.
Yeah, but they said, look what we got here, okay? So you see this incredible missile hit on something in Ukraine, but it wasn't anything important. They just wanted to show you we could do it. And it was not loaded warheads. It was just the kinetic energy of the speed of these things that just drove it, deep into the ground. Well, they fired another one last night, and it hit the biggest gas storage facility in Ukraine and one of the biggest in the world. It's a gas storage facility that was built by the Soviets and opened in 1983. It is a place where
when you say gas, do you mean petroleum?
I mean natural gas.
Natural gas. Okay.
Yeah, and the gas that goes through pipelines.
Right.
And so this is a junction of a lot of pipelines, and it's going to hurt tremendously the ability of Ukraine to fuel itself during the winter. It's just a huge loss for the people of Ukraine and also the people of neighboring countries, because they were using it to store their fuel in it too. So like Poland and Moldova and Romania, countries like that are going to suffer from it too. But once again, it was not a warhead. It was just the missiles themselves that hit the storage container and blew it up. Russia is saying, look, you can't keep throwing drones at my residence. You cannot, CIA, back down. And honestly, this is the most provocative point we've been at in this struggle between NATO and the CIA on one side and Russia on the other side. So I think, that's the biggest event of the week. And it is also very significant that the Washington Post did not even report on it.
Yes. Well, not just the Washington Post, but none of my other news sources that I follow reported on it. I have not seen it in the news at all. And that just shocks me. I can be a little naive, I suppose, but yeah, it shocks me.
Yeah, there's Polly says, right, hit a gas storage facility for the EU.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, well, it's Ukraine principally, but also EU countries. That's right from Polly in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why do you think the Washington Post didn't report on it?
Because they are on the side of NATO, and they want to keep the American people going, rah, 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 we're winning the war. They want us to keep sending tax money to Zelensky. They want us to support, Europe and Zelensky, as opposed to Trump's desire to get us out of that mess.
Don't you think, though, that by reporting it and making Russia look like the big bully, that it would just reconfirm everybody's anti-Russia attitude?
No.
I see.
I think that it will scare the hell out of people. If they really contemplate what this weapon can do.
And that's not a good thing?
No, because we want to have a war. You don't want to have your population wondering, oh my God, what if this missile system hits my city? When you're motivating them to,
Support a war.
support the war, because this, this is the game plan that a lot of us abandoned Biden over, is that, use Ukraine, build up a big army, and take over Russia. And that is the game that's afoot right now, is that this bundle of countries and their leaders and NATO, and because it's a resource play. Everything is a resource play. They want all of those $71 trillion worth of minerals and oil and things that are sitting under the ground in Russia, not doing anything. They're desperate for it, and they've made big investments, and they bet on it heavily. And they're not wanting to give it up. But Russia is saying, look, you're poking the bear too hard. Don't poke it anymore unless you want to see something really terrible happen.
Well, Corky says, what does it mean to be a super duper power? Hold fusion, yet keep it secret.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with you, Corky. I mean, the more that I've studied this, and with you turning me on to it a few years ago, it's got to be feasible, and they've got to know how to do it. And they keep saying that they're working on it and they're getting closer, or maybe China's got it or something like that. But to me, I'm sold that the answer is nuclear fission.
Well, taking over Russia.
Fusion, excuse me.
Taking over Russia, says Corky. Talk about hubris. And, that was my thought exactly, because Russia is a superpower. And for us to think that a little country like Ukraine, even with the help of NATO or the European Union or the United States, can outpower Russia, I've just never quite understood what the thinking was behind that.
It's long-term strategic warfare thinking. And, they say, okay, Russia has, 75 million people. If we can grind down their military at, say 500,000 a year, we can weaken them enough that we can take them down.
But see, that's the thing. Russia I ask myself the question, has Russia held back this whole time? Because when the war first started, I thought, how on earth can Ukraine think that they are as strong as Russia and can defeat them in a war? And it's dragged on for quite some time, but I think it's because Russia has held back.
Yes, it is.
And I think that what you're talking about, this recent attack, this is the Soviet Union saying, okay, we've been holding back, but we'll only continue to hold back for so long.
I think you meant the Russian Federation.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said the Soviet Union.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it.
That's funny. That happens to me too. It's I think I almost had that happen yesterday. It's hard to distinguish them.
Indeed. You grow up saying, calling a country something, and
yeah.
Old habits die hard.
But it is Vladimir Putin's country. And this is a game of 5-degree checkers or something. I mean, 5D checkers between him and Trump. And this is really this is a red line. This is a serious red line. The people talk about red lines, but he's saying, look, we hurt you because we needed you to know that we can do this. Now it's going to be a cold winter. People are going to leave Ukraine because there's no heat there.
Right.
And, it's going to be bad for millions of people. However, it's not going to be nearly as bad as it would if we had put a weapon on this system and dropped it on a city.
It's interesting to me that one rarely sees humility from Donald Trump. But the one issue for which I have seen him show humility a number of times is this issue. He has said, I thought it would be simple to resolve this Ukraine-Russia situation,
Hmm.
and it has not been simple, and I just haven't been able to so far, and I'm still working on it. And, my hat's off to him for acknowledging that, because his arrogance during the campaign about it, I found, a little troubling. But since he became president, he owns it, and he says, "Yeah, I thought I could, but I haven't been able to so far." You're looking at something. I'm going to post this comment from Brightmore. This is so interesting. During Venezuela coup chaos, Mossad attempted a coup in Burkina Faso, whose president, Traore, called out Netanyahu recently and said the Russians helped jam the Israel OFEQ satellite spying on Africa. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you have an image of Traore in your mind?
No, I do not.
He is one of these young, I mean, built like a tank, really a big guy with a big chest and a handsome, dark black uh, man with military bearing, wears a red beret, and he is asserting sovereignty and independence and has spoken out against Netanyahu. So I did not know that there was an attempted coup. I wonder how it's going over there.
Yeah, I have to admit, because we don't get good coverage of Africa, and Africa has so many nations that it's hard to keep up. I mean, we're talking, what is it, 50 or more nations in the continent, and there are coups going on constantly and civil wars going on in a variety of nations, or just rebels who are wreaking chaos like in Nigeria. So, we don't get good coverage of what goes on there, and so much happens without us really focusing on it.
I wanted to ask you about the alleged drone attack on Vladimir Putin's residence in Novgorod, Russia, about a week ago.
Mhm.
In some people's reporting, this was Donald Trump that did it. However, in some people's reporting, it's the CIA that did it. And there's a question of whether Donald Trump signed off on it or whether this is, once again, as we had in the Kennedy times, a rogue CIA that's not responding to the president. And I think that's a key question that I haven't seen anybody be able to sort through. Um, it's political, people that want Trump to lose are going to say, well, Trump did it. But did he? Or is this another situation where the CIA has, like in the Bay of Pigs, said, gone ahead and taken action, assuming the president would have to support it? And in this case, perhaps he does have to support it just in order to maintain uh, national security.
The illusion of leadership?
Well, the illusion that the government is all one thing.
Right.
That's what it is. It's not the government. It's not the illusion that Donald Trump is competent. It's the illusion that we work together as a U.S. government. And if the American people stop believing that, then we are in big trouble.
Well, I don't know. I think the American people stopped believing that a long time ago when we started taking sides with these two parties.
You mean Jefferson versus Adams?
Well, not
Mhm.
that far back. I think, at some point in my lifetime, I felt like our country was a little more united, but we certainly have divided up lately, want to call it red or blue, left or right, Democrat, Republican, whatever, however you want to characterize it. We have been very divided, and our leaders continue to be.
Something funny going on with my camera.
Yes, indeed.
Oh yeah.
What is that?
That.
Oh, that's your computer camera.
Yeah.
You might want to lean it a little bit more towards you so that. Oh, that's much better.
I think I have a loose wire somewhere, folks. That's all. I apologize for
I've
that.
often said that about you.
Yeah.
Brightmore says CIA MI6 is running the show in Ukraine. Why doesn't Trump call them out?
Yeah, it's a matter of power. This is when people wonder, what is power? How do people get power? Well, this is a fight over power, and it takes a lot more than just a decision to make something like that happen. Remember what Chuck Schumer said: if you mess with the CIA, they have 6 ways from Sunday to get back at you. And messing with the CIA has been unhealthy for a lot of people during my lifetime, including a certain president of the United States.
Sorry, can I ask you a favor?
Yeah.
Can you switch us back to the proper order? I don't know why, but we're all used to you being on one side and me. There you go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Corky says CIA under DJT got a stick in his craw. Yep. Brightmore notes one of 3 West African colonies dumping the French and Mossad. Yeah, Burkina Faso, one of 3, yes.
Yeah, that was it. I think he threw Macron out of the country at some point.
Yes, Polly says that. Threw Macron
Oh, yeah.
out of the country.
Yeah.
Palantir, says Brightmore, is the thread running through intelligence and Ukraine ops. To say that the U.S. is not involved is absurd.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Palantir or, just some super computer that's run by the National Security Agency or uh, the deep stuff that we don't get to see, the computer in Raven Rock, that ability, that if you remember, Henry Kissinger had that ability to read anybody's comms at any time. That's how things got so messed up in the Vietnam era, was that he could screw something up because he knew what you were going to do. And well, that's a story that has to do with the Sante raid that I've reported on so many times a number of years ago. So,
but you know what? I have, as you're saying this, if I'm giving you sort of this glassy-eyed look, it's because I'm thinking about how communications worked back then.
yeah.
And how on earth did he get his hands on communications? Because, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have electronic digital communication. Everything was done differently. Well, we have electronic, but digital. And
yeah, well,
that was what was crossing my mind. Brightmore says, comical that cybersecurity billionaire Shlomo Kramer called for limitations, I'm assuming you mean, on the First Amendment to protect free speech. Yeah, that's one of those ironies that happens. And I do have to say, when I do hear Donald Trump defending free speech, it kind of gives me oogies, because I think that that's one of the things that has bothered me a lot about the Trump administration, is there have been attacks on free speech.
Yeah, me too. That's another example of he doesn't have a choice about that. Whether he really is a super Zionist in his heart doesn't really matter. He has to come out with the rhetoric of condemning anti-Semitism and including in that limitations on free speech.
Well, yeah, some of the free speech activity under this administration has gone way beyond that topic, but that's not what we're here to discuss today, although I brought it up. So Brightmore says, how long before there's a false flag blamed on Hezbollah to justify U.S. invasion of Iran?
I know. How can he take that on while Venezuela has just happened? That's another one of the big critiques that I see on my internet feed is that he's taken on too many things. He's an egomaniac, and he thinks he can control all of these situations at once, and it's going to come crashing down.
Yeah. Yeah. I see that Corky says that my microphone seems ambient, so maybe I just need to get a little closer to it. Corky, let me know if that helps. Let us know if that helps.
Yeah, it should be close enough.
Yeah.
Unless there's a loose wire.
Yes, because we all know I have one.
I wasn't going to say that.
Well, I said it earlier, so it's only fair.
Oh, look who Kathy Sue is here. Kathy Sue is here and
Hello, Kathy Sue.
and memorializes Robert Tannenbaum, a very important lawyer. I don't have a bio at the tip of my tongue, but one of the good guys that has fought for the good causes. Let me go ahead and I'm going to make sure and give you guys some facts to back that up.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with who Robert Tannenbaum is.
Yeah, I was just reading about him yesterday, and some other people were talking about. Let's see. Oh, he's a writer. He's written a lot of books, and he's was a American trial attorney, novelist, and former mayor of Beverly Hills, California. Born in Brooklyn, New York. JD from Berkeley, and here it is. Tannenbaum served as deputy chief counsel for the House Select Committee on Assassinations to investigate the John F. Kennedy assassination and Martin Luther King assassination. He later resigned from the post shortly after being named. In 1998, he appeared in the documentary The Men Who Killed Kennedy and wrote the introduction to Mark Lane's 2011 book, Last Word. 2025, he published the book The Day in Dallas, featuring an introduction by Robert J. Groden. I'm going to have to get that book. This is really my first introduction to him, but a lot of the folks that I had met in Dallas at the conference know him, and he did speak at the conference a couple years ago. So they were also expressing condolences at losing him. So there you go.
Kathy Sue says, we went to his house during one of the Los Angeles charrettes.
Nice.
Nice, very nice.
Well, Happy New Year to you, Kathy. It's
yes,
good.
Kathy,
It's good
nice
to hear from you.
Brightmore says, Venezuela's crude will come in handy when Yemen shuts down oil delivery to Israel in the Strait of Hormuz.
That's an interesting point because Israel does need oil. They don't have any.
Right.
That's interesting. My first reaction was that this is an oil grab because of, as I told you earlier in the week, Marcia, the theory that the Saudis now are no longer sticking to the dollar as the only currency in which to purchase oil, which was a deal that Henry Kissinger did back in 1971. So that deal is over now. And so I was thinking, well, the United States needs all this oil because, it's got to prop up the dollar. Without us being our dollar being the currency, world currency for oil, our dollar can crash. So I thought, well, we're just going to steal all this oil from somebody from Venezuela, and that'll keep the dollar as the currency of choice for buying oil. But no, I think this is very interesting that the Mossad is known to have been very involved in this takedown of Maduro. And the suggestion that Brightmore is making is that this is Israel's actual need to have a source of oil when somebody shuts down the Straits of Hormuz. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the geopolitics is so complicated. There's so many moving parts and so many different interests within interests.
Yes. This is interesting. Brightmore says RFK Jr. has initiated an app that scans barcodes of products in grocery stores and tells you which poison you're about to ingest. I have an app like that. It's not one that was developed by RFK Jr. It's called Yucca, Yuka. I believe it's French, actually. And our friend Debbie told me about it. Now I'm looking to see if I'm saying that right. But it's a great app. I don't use it very often, even though when I first saw it, I thought, that'll be a good app. But then I decided, no, I don't need it, because if it has anything in it that I don't recognize, I don't buy it. So I don't need the app to tell me if it's poison or not. But it's Yucca, Yuka. I don't know if that's the same app as, in any way related to RFK Jr.
And Happy New Year back to you, dear.
Yes. Happy New Year, Kathy. Corky says that app needs to record microplastics exposure. Dishwasher pods spew it all over clean dishes. Yep. Microplastics.
Man,
everywhere.
Microplastics is really something to be concerned about, isn't it? I mean, it gets in your bloodstream. Ew.
I used to have an app that, did it identify microplastics? It identified other poisons, not in food, but in cosmetics, and soaps and things like that.
Febreze.
Yeah, and I think microplastics was one of the things. I didn't use it, but yeah, I've stopped using dishwasher pods. We've gone back to the regular powder. Yep. Yeah, and we don't store in plastic or use plastic anymore, especially around our food.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that's been interesting me lately, and that is the presence on Twitter, and I'm sure a lot of other places, YouTube, of the site called Promethean Action with Susan Kokinda and Barbara Boyd, two of the, I think, maybe even original LaRouche followers who broke away about 5 years ago and began their own thing. And it's fascinating to me. Their productions are getting better and better. They have a host, and they've got a couple 100,000 followers on their YouTube channel now. So they're doing real well. But what they're saying is all of the things that LaRouche had been talking about over many decades, putting together like the book Dope Inc. that I make reference to so often. It's right here on my desk. The combination of the British Empire and the British East India Company and the development of the dope trade and the way that empire has evolved into the transatlantic alliance now with NATO and all that, putting it into context of what Trump is doing. And, in that view, if you can possibly accept the idea that they might be right, then what he's doing to get to go after the narcotics, the narco terrorists, if you will, is essential in order to pull the roots out of that empire's claws in South America and Central America, and ultimately cause it to crash. Because he's going to have to go after the offshore banking, like the Cayman Islands and all that. But I think he's kind of, if he's right that Maduro really is sitting at the top of this pyramid of narco smuggling all around the world, that it is a fulfillment of what the book Dope Inc. and people like Anton Chaikin and all the rest were working on and hoping to bring attention to. So and boy, the the prejudice and hatred against LaRouche is just everywhere.
Yeah.
Whenever you mention it, what people on, the immediate reaction you'll get is, oh, well, they used to work with LaRouche, so therefore don't bother, don't even look, because this is a LaRouche people. But I have to give them credit there. I don't know if they're right. I don't know if they're getting paid off by the CIA, but I doubt it. I think that they're worth keeping an eye on.
Well, Brightmore is surprised they have so many followers.
It is, and then you wonder why. Why did John O'Loughlin only have 5,000 followers, and I've been doing this for 10 years, but they start doing it a year ago, and they've got hundreds of thousands of followers. How does that work?
They probably have young people who know how to better promote their agenda and page and podcast and all of those things. Well, this is interesting. Brightmore says Minnesota canceled school today out of precaution following the ICE shooting. Meanwhile, Tim Walz, in the face of the state's pandemic of fraud, has announced that he will not seek another term. Yeah, I saw that he's out, but I did not know that they canceled school. That I find a little surprising, but maybe not. It's, I think, a little overly dramatic.
Well, that's right. It's, never let a crisis go to waste.
Good point. Well, Corky says, pandemic of fraud. I like that, but fraud is business as usual. Cynical, but true. Now, going back to a comment from Kathy. Judith Very Baker's grandson started a company called Wiggle Brew. Love that name, Wiggle Brew. That's even fun to say. Organic fertilizer made of worm castings, disintegrated plastics like the swirl of plastics in the ocean. Granted $1.2 million by NIH. Interesting. I wonder where that stands. Well, imagine that is here.
I saw Judy, by the way, Kathy, at Dallas this past November, and she's doing great. Very, very nice to meet her finally personally. Of course, I've interviewed her a few times on my show.
Yeah. Imagine that. Takes 50 years to find out what has been done to us in the name of progress, like DDT and its possible link to polio. Yeah, so often they say, oh, no, this is safe. And then 50 years later, they say, oh, no, turns out it wasn't safe. We were wrong. We have new data. It's not safe. Yeah, that's actually one of my big complaints with so much that happens is, you have this 5-year study, even 10-year study, but usually 5-year study. And then you go, okay, it's safe. No, 5 years isn't enough. 1 year isn't enough. 2 years isn't enough. Sorry. Safe means we need to know in the long term. In this country, we will identify it as safe as long as it has not been proven unsafe. Whereas
Exactly.
in so many other countries, they assume it's unsafe until it has been proven safe. And I would prefer that, our authorities go that route, but no, we have to wait around and be exposed to things like DDT and other bad stuff.
Exactly, and that's the story of SV40. That's the story of people like me that took the sugar cube and then turn up with a soft tissue cancer later in life, and nobody has done any studies to find out whether there's a correlation. So all they can say is there has been no evidence of correlation of taking the polio virus, the active polio, or the polio vaccine. Oops, I said something you're not supposed to say on YouTube.
Oh,
And what is it? 80 million of us that took it.
right.
And there's an epidemic of cancer going on right now, and all of the talking heads are like, oh well, this is come from the COVID or come from. All right, I'm not going to talk about it anymore because I'm
Right.
on YouTube.
But no, I got to say something here, because you mentioned correlation, and so many people say correlation is not causation. It's very true. Correlation does not prove causation. But if there is a correlation, then let's put up a red flag and say, whoa, there's a correlation. Let's find out where the causation is. Because if there's a correlation, there's a very good chance there is some causation somewhere. So don't give me this correlation is not causation.
That's a very important point, and I echo it. And I also would add to it the point that circumstantial evidence is not conclusive proof. However, it certainly is the smoke that comes from the smoking gun, and you better take a look and see if there is a gun, because if you ignore the circumstantial evidence, you're going to end up like this country has done and never figure out who killed our president.
Right. Yeah, and go along believing that there was this lone gunman. Nice. I like how you put that, Brightmore. Brightmore says correlation is on the way to pattern recognition. Pattern recognition. Thank you. Indeed. Actually, Corky, I'm not sure what you're saying here. Corky says long safe engenders security, false security when energy drops. Ours went out this morning. Your energy went out? Does that mean your power? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I imagine up there in New York it might be cold. Isn't he up in New York State?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I keep seeing that Russia has ordered all of its embassy personnel and citizens to leave Jerusalem, and I thought leave Israel, and I haven't seen that confirmed anywhere. But it's interesting, all of these things are going on, and Israel is involved in so much. I think Israel is kind of like the hub of the Five Eyes in my mind. It's kind of like the hub of the network because all of these spook organizations, they all work together.
Mm-hmm. Of course they do. Absolutely.
Oh, Corky's in Syracuse, New York. There he is.
Yeah, it says his power went out because of the wind.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Garden Girl mentions that NASA is talking about a medical evacuation of astronauts on board the International Space Station for the first time in history. Yeah, it's a little bit, they're being pretty vague about it, but one of the astronauts is ill. But then they keep saying that they are stable, which, no, they is stable. I'm not sure when you use they to discuss a single human being. Anyway, this they thing is making me crazy. But anyway, And I don't know if our astronauts are, anyway, they won't say which astronaut it is. And then this use of the pronoun they makes me think we must have a male and a female. If not, why wouldn't they say he? But anyway, it doesn't matter. There is an ill astronaut, and they're thinking about bringing that person home early. The astronauts that are there were scheduled to stay there until mid-February, but
How long have they been there?
well, that's a good question, and I don't know the answer to that.
I think they've been there a long time.
Have they?
Well, I'm not on top of it either.
Yeah, I was trying to remember because there were those people that were stuck there, and then they were finally brought back, and that's been within, the past year. So, oh, Kathy has more about Wiggle Brew. Wiggle Brew NIH just happened. Now they can spend some of their company funds on advertising. We've been seeing ads here on YouTube. Also, innovative website. Oh, I'll have to go look at that. Brightmore says that NASA is floating a return to the moon. A mission without humans will orbit the moon next year.
What happened to the orbs anyway? Remember all the orbs we had last year around the election and, up in New Jersey and
Oh, they quietly went away.
yeah, but
did we ever find out what it was?
What were they?
I've forgotten all about it, actually.
I think Trump came out and said, "Don't worry, they're on our side, or they're good people," or something like that. Don't worry. Okay, we're not.
We've made contact. Their intent is peaceful.
Some kind of a craft that I can't imagine how it works, and it's like plasma, and it sparkles and shiny in the sky, and yeah, they were here for a while, but now they're gone. So let's get back to business as usual. Blow each other up.
Garden Girl says U.S. orders citizens to leave Iran immediately.
Oh.
Well, but it's pretty unstable over there in Iran with all the rioting and protesting that's going on. I could see why. But yeah, if you are telling people to get out, there might be some plan.
Well, there was a good comment on my X feed this morning. I don't know who said it, but he said, will the CIA start shooting their own protesters now? In other words, when you see violent protests popping up, you got to think that this is the work of our covert action squads to stir up violence against a government that we want to take down. It's more likely that this is something like a CIA project or a Mossad project than it is that this is some grassroots people that are just fed up. It's happened so many times that I have to say that it's most likely is right that this is a CIA agent provocateurs that at some point they're going to start killing them, and then with the idea of inflaming the emotions of the rest of the country to topple the government.
Okay. That makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but
well, it's a pattern that I see.
Consistent with a lot of what happens.
You were talking about correlation before, exactly. And it correlates with Guatemala. It correlates with lots of the overthrows that are now being cited as more evidence that the U.S. is an evil empire.
An evil empire.
That's right.
Okay.
That's what we are, according to a lot of people around the world are saying it. But I think again this type of rhetoric is generated as part of a psyop to help people lose faith in the government and lose faith in the USA.
Imagine that says that the orbs were a nice distraction, and then Corky says no orb shaming. Thank you. Okay, no orb shaming.
Nice orbs.
We love orbs.
Hey, it's noon. guess what?
Is it really?
Yeah, our
Wow.
hour has passed, and geez, yeah, let's give all due respect to the orbs. You know, nice orbs. Come back and visit anytime.
That's right.
Last word, Marcia.
Have a great weekend.
Everybody, have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday when we'll continue our series of Undo the Coup.
Thank you for being here, everyone.